I have a lot of machines. Each perform a certain task, but that takes up a lot of space. A big reason that I bought the xTool M1 2 years ago was because it does the job of two machines in one. A laser for cutting and engraving material, and a blade tool that can cut custom stickers. But why stop at 2 modes? Why not 3? Or even 4? That'll call for at least 4 projects in the one video. Dude, the M1 grew up. Whoa! What does that word say? Versalite. Oh, versatile. I was trying to read it on the camera screen back to front. Ooh, that was good. That was like a static one.
There are a lot of cool little upgrades and some stuff I've never seen before, so I'm very intrigued.
I'll send this M1 Ultra pre-release. Although I get to keep the machine, xTool didn't pay me for this video, so I'll have to run a short sponsor segment later to pay my bills. Now let's see if there's any trade-offs by packing 4 modes into one. Starting with mode 1, laser cutter. That was easy. All right, project number 1, laser cut from wood, a mini phone stand. Actually, I only need rectangles, so we could just do this straight in the xTool software. All right, so my Pixel 8 Pro is in a case, so that is like 14.5 mil. If I select these two, I can say subtract, and it chops out the other shape. So I've inputted my logo, or they gave me keychains. And then a hole for a keychain, it's about 3 mil wide itself, so 4 mil hole will do. So the red lines will cut, and the logo will be engraved. To laser cut with the original M1, you have to space out these riser slats one by one. But that's changed slightly with the Ultra. There's now these end caps that hold some slats in place and leave some free. So it's quicker to add or remove all from the machine whilst leaving the flexibility of adjustment. Surprisingly, there's a bag of filters for the exhaust module. Now this module has dual receiver pins, so you can put it out the left or right of the machine. However, those filters aren't going to purify air of harmful small particles for use indoors, so you'll still want to laser cut in a space where you can vent fumes outdoors. So I noticed something wasn't right when I ran my first cut. See, I set the position with the new crosshair method, which gives you very precise placement on your material. So you can simply align your design to the crosshair in the software. But by habit, I typed the thickness of the wood into what's now called distance. That's because the M1 Ultra now has a built-in probe that measures the distance from the laser module to the top of your material. This is a much more accurate way of setting focus of the laser beam, resulting in better quality engraving. Max speed is also increased to 400 millimeters a second from 250, so your jobs can be done faster. Now, I would hate for you to buy a machine like this and then be disappointed because it can't do what you thought it could do. So there's many types of laser cutters out there, and these are diode-based machines. So it's great for wood projects. The original topped at 10 watts, which could cut up to 6 mil of basswood, whereas the Ultra, you can get a module that's 20 watts. That'll cut up to 10 millimeter thick basswood. For most of my projects, I use 3 millimeter thick plywood, so the 10 watts of the original has been ample. You can also stack wood, like different types for contrast in signs, or just multiple layers to create 3D topographical maps. Projects with wood are great for these types of machines, but you may want to use colored plastics like acrylic. Being a blue laser beam, the diode beam, yellow, orange, and red are best because it's the opposite of blue, absorb the most. The blue beam also really struggles with white because it reflects a lot of the visible light spectrum, blue, and it can't cut clear acrylic. To do these, I use my CO2 laser machine, the xTool P2. A CO2 machine has an invisible laser beam, so we can cut clear and tinted acrylics, which is how I did the frosted acrylic panels on my custom desk build. However, before I had my own CO2 machine, I used the M1 to prototype cut from wood and dial in measurements for certain panels. And then I'd have a business cut what I needed with a higher end CO2 laser. You could use the M1 Ultra in the same way. You could prototype from wood, and then using today's sponsor, PCBWay.com, you could have an industrial grade machine laser cut your projects from sheet metal. After uploading your projects file, you can select some parameters and then get an instant quote for it to be manufactured and shipped to you. You can get custom PCBs, 3D prints, CNC jobs, and other advanced manufacturing methods shipped to your door. Big thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video. Now let's check out mode 2, we don't need the laser cut slats because we'll be installing a fine tip blade. The good news is that this blade tip takes the same replacements as the original, which is a Roland standard blade. So you can buy replacements from many places, it's not proprietary. Double-sided sticky mats are included to stop material from sliding around. I've made many custom stickers with the same setup on the original M1. For personal use, it's great to make custom game or movie merch that doesn't exist.
Wow.
As a proof of concept with some rough measurements, I just cut this iPhone skin with the M1 Ultra. But today, I want to make something using heat transfer vinyl. All right. So now that we've got the blade in and the material in, we can switch the mode to blade mode. Cut pressure, 165 grams, and the speed at 300. That's it. Process. Grab this. Oh, dude, that was way too strong. It went right through the whole thing. Okay, it would seem bit too much pressure. Heat transfer vinyl on the library said 100 grams of pressure. I reckon we give that a shot. 100 grams of pressure. Let's start that. Did this one cut all the way through? No, nice. Oh, that is a big heating surface. I'm gonna have to start making merch, bro. Smart press mat, dude, I use my ironing board and I layer like 2 towel layers over the top whenever I made my shirts. This is just like the perfect big flat surface. Man, I'm still not getting used to this YouTuber stuff. Like, they also sent the cast metal smart press platform. When I went to attach the mounting plate to the top of the heat press, the included screws would not bite. It's just free spinning. Since I have split rings, I was able to push down really hard and the thread was able to bite for 1 1/4 turn. So I swapped in some M4 bolts that I had to get a deeper bite into the thread and let xTool know my findings in case it wasn't a pre-release model issue. If you're a heat press connoisseur, this can do 10 to 25 kilos of pressure, and after pairing the dongle to the Flexi control system, you can control from 100 to 205 degrees, hitting to the max temp in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, which is apparently faster than most. 1, 0, lift up. Fresh peel. Mate, look at that. Yeah, I'll pop it on. Fresh off the press, literally. That is spot on, dead center, straight. I love it. That's just the beginning. Take out the laser head and we've got this carriage, and this can dock in, lock in, and attach stronger blades. At the moment, you can get a circular blade, which is good for fabrics, even denim, or this cutting blade that can do up to 2.5 mil thick, soft materials. This is new to me. I've never had a tool with heavy duty blades like this before. So I put in some 2 mil thick leather, and after multiple passes, about 8 or so, I was able to cut through. But I was struggling with the little fibers on the base. Even with each pass, the blade turns around and goes the opposite direction, so it's starting at a slightly different point. But some fibers were always connected. In hindsight, I should have cut the leather with the other face down to solve this. But before that realization, I loaded up some leather offcuts I had for a project idea that came to mind. Oh, it's bigger than I thought. That will work. Okay, so I've got the piece of leather. I've been able to kind of just rub off some of the extra fibers hanging off the edges. There might be a specific tool that people use to trim that up. But I'm going to test out another tool that this machine has. And so we can switch to foil transfer tip, get some text. I can do a line transfer or a fill transfer. So after some Googling, it turns out you need a heated tool for foil transfer on real leather. Yeah, that's not gonna work on leather. I really wanted something on the leather. So I moved the machine back to the garage, put in the laser module, and etched on my logo. And now I've got a custom cable tie. Oh, and I wasn't going to let foiling get the better of me, so I put in some card, and after some trial and error of different pressures and speeds, I got a really cool result. Oh, they both look great. 2 passes, that did it. Heck yeah. I don't know if I'll honestly ever do foiling again, but it's just cool to know that I can do it. Something else I can do is add pens. This is probably strange to hear, but I'm most excited that this can hold pens. Look at all these colors. I have always wanted a pen plotter. Like, I've looked at modifying my 3D printers to do it. Essentially, it's like coding line art and then having a robot arm draw it for you. And now I can do it myself. Okay, so we need this head. You take the pen, click it in. That was actually freakishly easy. Where this fine tip blade is mounted, just clamp down the pen. Wait, okay, so for the pen, the font, you can actually change it. There's like 11 of them have this single line option. So the recommended is 80 grams of pressure, 350 speed. All right, let's hit start. Heck is it drawing? Oh. So they just do the path. Also, the font just does the path like twice, but right on itself. Yeah, it's probably not the best font, but I'll write a sentence with something else. That is so cool. Like, it's just a pen, but make the pen do anything. Yeah, I gotta do it. I don't know why it's as funny as. Oh, that's so good. It's so basic, but like drawing with a pen with precision is really cool. Also, you can apparently hold paintbrushes and other third-party pens, whatever you can fit into the grip of the holder. But what I think's going to blow your mind, and this is what's blowing my mind, is this next module. Ink module. That's right. The M1 Ultra has an Inkjet module. It can use a printer cartridge to print on anything. That clicks. There's little data pins on the ribbon cable and the cartridge, which connect. And then on the machine, you can dock it in and plug the USB-C cable over here. Snap the front on. And then at the front right of the machine, this piece slots in. You can put this paper down. And then we take this end cap that I guess keeps the ink from drying out and put it there. The specs say this is rated for 20 A4 pages worth of printing, which would vary greatly depending on how much you use of each color on each page. Whoa, that's so cool. It's like watching the inside of a printer. It's also tricolor, so CMY. There's no K, which is key, which stands for black. Oh, and it picks up the lid. Watch it. So it doesn't dry out. Whoa. Now you might be thinking, Cam, that's just printing on paper. Big whoop. Wow. How about a porcelain coaster? I can just drop it on in there. And then in the software, I can choose to mark an outline of a circle, move it over to a different side. And then with the third point, the software can show me a perfectly scaled circle. May have put a bit too much ink on that one. It's smeared. At the moment, the only setting for the Inkjet module is intensity. So I just reduce the percentage. It's also dye ink, so it's not waterproof, meaning you should do a clear coat on certain materials so the ink won't run. It's quite faint, but it's a lot better than before because it's not smeared. I wonder if intensity just reduces the dots per inch, so then there's less ink. What do you think? Do you like it? Solid? Sick. All right, this is actually something that I've wanted to make for a while for my desk setup. That is a custom mouse pad. Now I've got some blanks here, but of course I could print on my good quality Razer mouse pad here, but this basic blank would be perfect to get an idea for the process. So I asked Charles, what would you want on a mouse pad if I made you one? She said, the dog's heads. I'm gonna take that literally. I'm not sure what intensity, this is fabric, so it should absorb more than the porcelain. Max material thickness is 3 millimeters, and unlike the laser or blades, you can't change the speed. It's locked at 210 millimeters a second, which wouldn't seem slow if it didn't awkwardly pause at the end of each stroke. Like, I get it, it's just ink, but like, you can put anything into it and print ink onto it. To my knowledge, this is a HP 804 ink cartridge. The cool thing about that is that on AliExpress, I found refillable options so you can fill up yourself. Now, I'm curious as to what's actually changing with intensity. So I did a 25% increment print on paper. There's no denying it gets more vibrant as you go up in the scale, but under the microscope, we can also see the dots per inch is increasing as we go up in the scale too. I did try printing on a piece of PLA, 3D printed plastic. At just 30% intensity, the ink runs along the layer lines. So it's not even worth clear coating this to make it waterproof. But this ink module is not meant to print on plastic. It's made for wood and paper. What's really exciting is that I read that they might release a UV printer head. Now, UV printing can print on plastic and it's waterproof. You'll find like keyboards in offices, the text on the keyboard, that's UV printed. This little keyboard here, my OP1, that text, all those legends, that looks like it's UV printed. Waterproof printing on plastic covers all my tech. Okay, I'm going to give you the best representation of colors through the camera. Now, this is 20%, a 40%, and another 40% intensity over the top of itself. And it still seemed quite light. So in the software, I realized I could actually adjust saturation with the built-in sliders, and then I maxed out intensity. And that led to this 100% intensity with max saturation, which is obviously way under what you'd get from paper. So this ink's not made for printing on this type of fabric very well. On the porcelain coaster, we had to increase intensity a lot. So compared to paper, much more vibrant here. But since paper's made from wood, that means we can print onto wood. And since this is still a laser cutter, we can laser cut out our design and end up with custom wood projects that have been printed on with vibrant colors. Like, this is actually really crazy to see, especially if you compare that to like some of the other options. So by now you're probably thinking, Cam, this actually sounds pretty good, yeah? Like, you got all these modules, all these options, and if you watched my videos, you're probably excited and interested in a laser cutter. So what are the downsides or trade-off from having this type of system? Are there improvements, and what are some alternatives? Well, I'm glad you asked, so here we go. Having the modular system means there's extra bulk in the head. So the processing area is a 300mm square. So that's the same height as the original, but the width is reduced from 385mm. Now, the laser aperture, the actual laser beam, can extend past to about 350mm, but I think this has been limited so you don't accidentally slice up the Inkjet module tray in case you leave it in. The main complaint that I saw about the original in forums was having camera-only positioning wasn't accurate enough. And so the switch to a pinpoint laser crosshair is going to make a lot happy, but you can still use a camera through the app. It uses the 4 markers on the sides to know where your phone camera is relative to the machine. Scanning a QR code then imports that to the desktop software so you can position your jobs on each material. This allows you to still use the camera-based autofill features that you may be familiar with on xTool's other machines. And something to be aware of if you plan to do a lot of laser cutting is that this G4 filter lasts 4 to 6 hours. You get a little alert in the software when it needs to be replaced. This isn't a health filter. There's not much there, right? It's actually to protect the blower style or centrifugal fan that they've installed for this exhaust module. Every other laser cutter that I know or I've seen use a normal fan, right? So it just goes straight through and out, whereas this one goes out and across. This allows you to get this really close up to a wall, and that's why xTool have made this change. But it does mean that you now have a filter that you have to replace. And so if a 10-pack of filters is $6 US, that means that every 40 hours at least of laser cutting, you spend $6 on filters to protect the fan. All right, improvements for this machine. 1, a universal pen holder. On Amazon, I saw this one for the Cricut. It's got a thumb screw to lock it down. That way I could put a paint marker in and draw on anything with a paint marker. That would be awesome. Built-in air assist would be nice to see. Essentially, it's a pump that blows a stream of air with the laser beam, so you get much cleaner cuts, especially for wood. On the original M1, I had to remove the blade tool so I didn't accidentally cut myself whilst I fumbled the magnetic attachment to the aftermarket lens mount. Here though, they have impressed me because the aftermarket kit plugs directly into a port at the back where they've already pre-plumbed hose all the way through the cable run to the laser head. So, although it's not built in, it's probably as built in as an air assist module can get for add-on. And on the topic of add-ons, there are 3 built-in fire detection sensors, which should stop the machine if it detects flames. The cool thing is you can get the fire assist module. It has a specific name, but it plugs in at the back and it will fill the enclosure with CO2 gas, smothering the flame. Like, it just dumps CO2 cartridges into the machine. There's so many other accessories, like you can buy the riser base, which gives an extra 100 millimeters of height for engraving on taller objects, or the Rotary module. You can plug that in and now you can rotate tumblers or cylindrical objects and laser onto those. It's such a unique machine. Like, you could buy a 3D printer from Creality, strap a laser to the side of it, bit of firmware, and then you could start laser cutting. But then you have to wear glasses, and anyone that walks into the room, like a pet or a family member, are at risk of permanent eye damage unless they're also wearing glasses and don't have any gaps in them. The orange lid of the M1 Ultra protects anyone in the space from the dangerous blue light levels. The only other machine that I've seen with easy swap modular heads is the Snapmaker Artisan, and that is CNC, laser cutting, and 3D printing. So replaces all these machines that I have here. The enclosure is orange, so it's for the laser, doubles the protection for the CNC, but the 3D printing is slower than high-speed printers that we're used to these days. And that machine's way more expensive because it's got CNC and 3D print modules opposed to Blade and Inkjet. But this is like the future, I guess. Well, we'll get to a point where we have a machine where you can just like put the module on it that you need, because they're all moving in XYZ axes. We just need to change what it's doing in that 3 dimensions of space. This is gonna be really hard because there's so many modules and parts that you can piece together to build your machine and add-ons. 10-watt laser with the fine tip blade and the 2 other blades that you saw me use today, including the pens, comes to $1,299 US. That's the launch price, but xTool often have sales, so I'm just gonna say that's the price. Extra 100 US gets you the Inkjet module, and an extra 500 gets you the Inkjet plus 20-watt laser module upgrade. Now, if you bundled the original M1 with a Cricut Maker 3 cutting machine, which is xTool's main competitor for thick, heavy-duty blades and pen drawing, that is pretty much the basic price bundle. If you add in the Inkjet head, now you've got functionality that I've never seen before for only 100 bucks more, and you only have to learn 1 piece of software. Plus, if they make that UV module printing head, I can print directly on plastic and it's waterproof. My days, that will be wild. If you liked today's video, thumbs it. If you loved it, sub it, and then click the link in the description below to find out more, or click the share button to send this video to a friend that's like, damn, this has 4 modes. Can't believe it's gonna have even more. That's wild. Link on the screen for the Makerspace makeover video and my past projects. See ya, bye.
That was my favorite.